Hey everybody, I had to make this video because of all the queries I'm getting about CELPIP this year and the patterns I'm seeing and what is to be expected. Plus, there's a lot of confusion in people who think their score is something. They go in the exam and realize their score is something else. So we'll talk about evaluation, we'll talk about where you can practice with the practice materials and a lot more things you need to know before you do the exam. Otherwise, you will just be shocked when you do the exam. You'll pay another $300 to rebook it, and you don't want that. So, the first thing we got to talk about is understanding your level. And you can also get your level assessed by us directly. I'll talk about free feedback later in this video. But when we understand our level, you can practice, first of all, from our mock tests. The link for that is in the description. Our 15-hour course is loaded with mock tests, but there's also a link for a free mock test that you'll find in the description. I'll talk about that later as well. So when you do the mock tests, check out your reading and listening score simply by looking at the correct answers divided by the total answers multiplied by 12. 12 is the total score in CELPIP. So again, correct answers divided by total answers multiplied by 12. That's going to be your score in CELPIP out of 12. You might score 8 out of 12, 10 out of 12, etc. Okay, so you can check your level there. That's pretty easy. The problem is in writing and speaking. How do you evaluate yourself? So there's really three tiers of students. The ones who are below CLB 6, CLB 7, and then the ones who are sitting at 9 or more, which is the desired level. So let's talk about CLB 7 first, because most of you, I believe, are in this boat when you're preparing for this exam. CLB 7 is kind of intermediate, but I would say it's slightly less than intermediate, slightly less. This is a place where in writing you would have, let's say, 6 to 8 grammar mistakes. You would have no major mistake, but your descriptions would have a little bit of an error. For example, a good description is if I'm supporting building a shopping mall, I would say, let's build a shopping mall. It's going to create jobs for janitors, shopkeepers, cashiers, and it will be good for the economy. That's a good description. That's a level 9 plus description. But a level 7 description is let's have a shopping mall because we don't have enough shopping malls in our city, so having one would do us good. This is a weak description. It doesn't go in the details, doesn't give the example. So that's where your description would be a little bit weak. Your vocab use would be day to day. Okay? This is for writing. For speaking, same things. Your descriptions wouldn't be in depth. Vocab use would be day to day. You would have grammar mistakes and you wouldn't be using the right tone. Maybe you are robotic. But if you step it up a notch, let's say now in speaking, you're also saying ums, you're not using good connectors, now you will drop down to 6 or lower. Speaking is marked slightly in a harsher way than compared to writing. So you make more mistakes in speaking, you quickly drop down to 6. From here, let's say your grammar mistakes are more than 8. You make 10, 11, 12 grammar mistakes. You'll be going even further down CLB 6, CLB 5, and so on. Same thing goes with writing. More mistakes, obviously, your level drops down. But CLB 6 or lesser is often the case when people make major mistakes. For example, they don't answer the question to the point. They're saying something else while the question is talking about another topic. Or you have, instead of 4 paragraphs, for example, in task 2, you have 1 paragraph. So the structure and flow doesn't make sense. Or your vocab is very repetitive and basic, where students, for example, say and in many sentences. And another one that I see is people overusing I. You guys use a lot of I's. You don't have to do that. Use active and passive voices. Nothing should be repeated too many times. Even good words, good connectors, shouldn't be repeated more than twice in a writing task or a speaking task. So when you start making major mistakes like this, or more mistakes in quantity, for example, twice the grammar mistakes, you quickly go down below 6, and that's the worst place to be at. CLB 9 is perfection. Okay, so CLB 9, basically, you want to understand it like this. You can only make 1 to 2 mistakes, and those are very basic mistakes, like maybe 1 to 2 grammar mistakes, or you spelled something incorrectly, or a sentence mistake, you misplaced it. Nothing major. If you are not answering the question to the point, that's a major mistake. If you have written a sentence that is very confusing, the examiner cannot understand it, that's confusing. You will lose marks there. All those things are major mistakes, and if you make those, you can forget your CLB 9. However, I want you guys to think of it as absolute perfection, because if you try that and you go in the exam, you are bound to make some more mistakes. So don't think of, if I just get away with 1 or 2 mistakes, I will get a CLB 9. Literally think of this as 0 mistakes, because the total score is 12 in CELPIP, right? But you want to consider 9 as the total score. You need a very high level of English for this. No mistakes, especially no major mistakes. Also, you need to have very complex vocabulary, complex sentences, and a mixture of simple and compound sentences. So not just complex, but a mixture of simple and compound sentences, as well as a range of vocabulary, which means use adjectives, good phrases, and good adverbs. Okay, so that's what is required for writing and speaking. Once again, CLB 9 Plus is not day-to-day friendly conversation the way you talk with friends. It is way more advanced. So first thing is you understand this. Now, you might not be the best at it when you talk about evaluating yourself. Don't worry, we'll talk about free feedback in a second. Before that, let's talk about practice material. Where can you find the best practice materials for CELPIP? The one thing is you can check out our course in the description. That's not in one of these points. The course in our description is a 15-hour course, 5 mock tests, very detailed materials. There's a shop link for that as well. But you can also check out the free mock test. The link for that is included in the description. It covers all 4 modules. You'll be able to test yourself because it reflects the real exam's difficulty. Answers are also included, so you can test yourself from there. And for further resources, just check out the links in the description. There is a list to 400 plus best vocabulary words for CELPIP. There's a link to multiple playlists, writing templates, speaking templates, a lot of great resources. So check those out. They're all in the description. Now, let's talk about free feedback. As I was saying since the beginning of this video, you can send us your writings and your speaking recordings at info@hzadeducation.com. We will tell you what you will score, or if you're interested in booking a 45-minute free assessment session with one of our instructors, we can do that. It is a free service provided to everybody, but with videos like this, we get booked very quick. So please email us as soon as possible. We'll set it up for you. Just let us know your time zone and availability in that email, and we'll set this up. Okay? This way you will know what your level is before you get the exam results and before you are, hopefully not, but before you are shocked. Now, when we go to our 4th thing, here I want to talk about reading and speaking. This is my 4th point, 4th tip for your CELPIP practice in 2024. Reading and speaking. Okay, I'm not talking about writing and listening because they are not relatively easier, but they are easier. Well, I would say relatively easier, but not completely easy. Reading and speaking is where most people struggle. In fact, I did a poll and that's what you guys said. Reading and speaking is where we're struggling. Fine. Here's what you want to do with reading. 3 things. First of all, you want to work on paraphrasing content. You see an article. Now, when you look at a paragraph, read it. Now try to paraphrase it. Try to say it in your own words and literally use your own words. Don't copy the words that are on the article. Explain it to a 5-year-old kid. How would you say that in the simplest words? This is important because when you are attempting the CELPIP exam, a lot of the words from the questions are paraphrased. Now, if your paraphrasing skill is good, you can tackle this issue. Now, also, you want to work on the main ideas quickly. So when you're reading articles, look at each paragraph quickly within a few seconds, not more than a minute, not even more than 30 seconds per paragraph. And tell yourself what the main idea is from this paragraph. So we're talking about skimming through, quick reading, and getting the main idea. Why this skill is important to learn is because when you look at the questions, you're always supposed to look at the questions first, then go to the passage, right? So when you look at the questions, you go to the passage, you need to identify which paragraph you are reading quickly to answer that question. You cannot read the whole thing. You have to read sections of it for each question type. So if you identify quickly what paragraph is relevant to what question, you'll be very fast at just pinpointing that. So work on this skill. It's almost like reading a paragraph and giving a heading. Okay, this paragraph talks about this. This is the other skill you have to learn. And of course, work on speed as you go practice these reading articles. We'll talk about where you can do reading. You want to do it fast because CELPIP reading time is limited and questions are tough. So just practice so you can do it faster. Now, where can you get all this practice? I'll give you a resource with unlimited practice. So this is Google Scholar, okay? You can search any article here that you like. If you like war, you can get a book on war, a PDF, or any other topic. I tend to like war stuff for some reason, but you can have your favorite topic and you can get unlimited amount of articles from Google Scholar. That's a great resource for you to use these 3 points for practice and work on them because they will really help in the CELPIP reading exam. Let's talk about CELPIP speaking. Here, we're looking at a score of 12, and let's look at the marking criteria because what you want to do is, when you look at the speaking questions, which you can access in the links below, you want to look at them and record yourself. Record yourself, then play yourself. Now, when you play yourself, try to look at this examiner marking criteria and evaluate if you have gotten these things right. Let me talk about coherence and task fulfillment. It's on your screen so you can read it as well. They are mainly talking about the flow of ideas, if your ideas are organized properly. Do you have an appropriate introduction and conclusion? Is it appropriate to the situation? Is it formal or informal? You want to make sure your answers address that. You also want to ensure your descriptions are actual descriptions. You're not just saying one sentence on one point and moving on, but you're explaining each point by giving reasons or examples behind it. Just like I did earlier with the shopping mall example, give your rationale behind everything. Don't just say things, you gotta prove it in CELPIP. So that is where the description, the task response, coherence will come in. And of course, the when is based on the situation. Is it appropriate for an informal or formal situation based on the question types? So make sure you hit this criteria. Now, when we talk about listenability, you want to make sure you talk at a reasonable pace, which is not too fast, not too slow. If you're too slow, you are not going to describe enough words, or you're not going to say the answer in enough words to justify the task response in that limited time. So you don't want to speak too slow. If you speak too fast, it shows nervousness, and there are marks for tone and confidence. So your tone would matter if you speak too fast. Don't do that. Instead, take pauses, take deep breaths between sentences. A great way to go from one sentence to another is by using connectors. You don't have to do it in every sentence, but in some sentences you should. It also helps you with your coherence because it builds a flow. And by taking pauses, taking breaths, you can think as well about what the next thing is supposed to be. Plus, that is a very good natural pace to go with. Also, ensure you are natural. Don't talk like a robot. Make sure you emphasize your words and express your feelings, especially when you use adjectives. So when you say, this is amazing or this is terrible, emphasize those adjectives. Vocabulary, you want to use a range. You want to use adverbs, adjectives, active voice, passive voice. You want to use phrases or idiomatic expressions. Don't just use basic words. Don't use words like good, bad, so. These are very, very simple words that everybody's going to use. So use unique words, use a range of words, and use advanced words. So when you mark your speaking, check if you have hit all this criteria. And I should also mention that when we talk about coherence and vocabulary, a combined strategy for this is to use good connectors such as furthermore, likewise, also, moreover. That will greatly help you in getting both these marks at the same time. Okay. Finally, let's talk about the fifth tip that you can really benefit from. It's probably the best tip among everything that I've said here. Check out our 15-hour CELPIP self-paced course in the description. This year and in all years, this gives us the best reviews, but this year especially, people have really benefited from it, especially with the updated version that has been launched later this January, yes. And this has the best mock tests, everything you need on all 4 modules. The details are right here. You get the templates on all modules. You get 800 CELPIP 10 plus vocabulary words and phrases, which now also has a 250 word list, which is an accelerated word list if your exam is much nearer. You have a detailed reading and listening guide and a lot more things, plus free feedback offer as well. To check out all these resources, you can check out the link in the description. You can also see this course on the shop link. And if you have any questions with it, we're always available through email support. Plus, you can comment here as well. So guys, make sure you follow all these tips for your exams in 2024 because CELPIP is one of the easiest exams to give, a great way to improve your CRS scores, but it needs its respect. It needs its proper preparation and time. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk very soon.